Hello there guys, what is going on? Daniel Childs back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a great bank holiday weekend if you are in the UK, but just had a great weekend elsewhere around the world if you're watching this or listening to this on the podcast. Good to start a week really where Chelsea have won a game, and it's quite a weird feeling this season to feel positive about Chelsea. If you haven't heard my thoughts on the game against Bournemouth, please go and check them out now. In today's show, we're going to be looking at Mauricio Pochettino. There is an expectation that this week could be vital in terms of getting it over the line, in terms of Chelsea announcing who the next head coach, which we suspect will be Mauricio Pochettino this week, and also how that impacts players like N'Golo Kante and Joao Felix. Before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you don't miss any of the Chelsea news regarding Mauricio Pochettino heading into the summer and next season. Like the video too, it really does help out. If you are listening on the podcast feed, thank you so much for tuning in. Son of Chelsea is a part of the 90 Min Podcast Network. So I think the first place to start is, yes, we do expect, David Ornstein reported this on in his Monday column for The Athletic, that there is an expectation this week that it is going to be wrapped up. There's kind of a mystery in terms of, the reporting that, well, they're going to wrap it up and they'll find a next head coach, when it seems like, based on all the accurate reporting we have, or good reporting, it is only going to be one man. I mean, Vincent Kompany, for instance, another contender, has recently signed a new contract with Burnley, so you can rule him out. And just the way things have been accelerating with Pochettino's name consistently over recent weeks gives you an indication of who it's going to be. But hopefully it can get over the line. I would just say I have been reading Guillaume Balaguer's book, Brave New World, which is all about Pochettino, and specifically it's inside the 16-17 season, and I'm about halfway through it right now. I definitely suggest, if you just like football books, and particularly if you're a fan of Pep Confidential, which is probably my favourite football book, I think this is, you're going to enjoy this. Just from sort of a insight into one of the game's big coaches, and particularly working at Premier League level during an exciting time for Spurs. It also goes into a lot of detail, not only on that season, month by month, the conversations he has with players, the decision making that goes around what he's doing at Spurs, but he also does take a look back into his childhood, into his time at Espanyol, of course, his playing career, how it ended, a fascinating story of Marcelo Bielsa, and then also his time at Southampton. So I definitely suggest, if you want to get to know Pochettino a lot more, but also just enjoy reading football books, I think this is a really good one. But just getting obviously insight into Pochettino a lot more, and kind of the way he feels about things in a football sense. And, I'm really excited to see what he could do at Chelsea. And I feel that one of those players, and it's relevant today, N'Golo Kante. Because Matt Law has reported that Chelsea appointment of Mauricio Pochettino could be key in signing and sealing that new contract for N'Golo Kante. The Telegraph reporting here that the Argentine and Kante share a mutual appreciation of one another. It is understood that Pochettino was interested in signing Kante for PSG, and that it became clear that the 32-year-old midfielder would relish playing for him. The move never materialised, and Kante stayed at Stamford Bridge, but sources claim the pair have retained a desire to work together at some point, if possible, even being described as a bromance was one of the phrases used. Kante, I think, exciting, in terms of my opinions, and I'm not going to say that, I like to be consistent with these things. If I change my opinion on something, or I'll say where I felt earlier in the season, and if that's changed, if that's evolved, or kind of the way things have moved on, and you can find videos, you can read articles that I wrote for Football.London earlier in the season where I wasn't a fan of handing N'Golo Kante a new contract. I still have my doubts because, my big thing with Kante, and it's the most obvious thing we could bring up, is regarding his fitness. I think it's been really positive to see in recent weeks that, I think the club managed him well when he's got back into the team, and I think he's actually looked good. I think he's looked back to sort of peak Kante in certain glimpses. I thought the game against Liverpool was a really good example of that, and of course he created one goal against Bournemouth with a really good cross, and just hopefully can manage that for the rest of the season, and hopefully have a full pre-season with Mauricio Pochettino. And Kante, again, it's never been a question of his talent, of his impact, if you can keep him fit. One extraordinary player, particularly for someone like Pochettino who likes to see his players run. Kante, that's kind of a big part, but that is also is a fear later on in his career in terms of him breaking down. But you can absolutely see why a coach like Pochettino, I mean, any coach in football would want to have N'Golo Kante. He's one of the best midfielders we've ever seen. But I think, with Kante and what could be done at the later stage of his career to really keep that going, can, Pochettino, and particularly from a fitness point of view, we did speak about this, I say, last week or the week before, around Chelsea really need to sort out their fitness, and the number of players that have been injured this season in recent years, the rehiring of the physio, and particularly Pochettino has, you understand this from Pochettino. He says it in his own words. He says it in our book. The importance of fitness, the importance of endurance over the course of a season is going to be key. And as I say, can Kante overcome that with some, a focus on that with Pochettino? Not sure. These are long-standing problems that have been happening under several Chelsea head coaches since that injury he got under Mauricio Sarri. But I do think it would be very exciting to see if he could stay fit, what he could produce under Mauricio Pochettino next season. I also think the key thing always with Kante was investing in new midfielders. We've done a lot of that with Enzo Fernandez. I think it's exciting seeing Andre Santos potentially come in during the summer. And for me, still investing in another central midfielder. So to just add bulk to that area and to add cover to that area that isn't solely reliant on Kante staying fit for the majority of the season, which has been a big problem in recent years. Are you excited about Kante and Pochettino working together? I think in terms of that profile, in terms of what Kante is best at harrying, feeling like he's covering so many areas of the pitch, multiple versions of him. It feels like he's outnumbering. He make in times in his career he's made a pass and then received the pass he's just made for himself. So, Kante, Pochettino, that energy, that high energy, and particularly the other players in midfield that Chelsea could be building around next season, I think it's quite exciting. The next story comes from Nazar Cancelo, and it regards Joao Felix, who of course scored at the weekend. Swap deal talks as Atletico eye duo with transfers key to Mauricio Pochettino decision. Apparently, after a series of calls, Atletico continue to demand £88 million, €100 million for their 23-year-old forward, but are open to another loan deal at a cost of about £16 million. Chelsea have also expressed their desire to reduce Felix's asking price through swap deals after learning that the Spanish side are interested in both Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and Marc Cucurella. I don't know if swap deals, this is the second summer now we're going to be going in when this ownership, now with sporting directors, and you'd like to think a more refined, recruitment idea of, personnel behind the scenes, are maybe going to try and get some swap deals again. And I'm always very cynical of them because I think they are so rare. And, I think that the situation has to be perfect. And, financially, in terms of what the financial landscape of European football is very clear. What English clubs can offer, the Premier League clubs can offer to European clubs who don't have as much finance. It's important to those clubs that they can extract money from Premier League clubs. And, if they're getting a swap deal, obviously that fee is going to be lowered. And what do they value more? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang or more money for Joao Felix, a signing that hasn't worked out for them. I still stand by this, and I know he scored a nice goal at the weekend. It was a really good finish. But I still don't see much value in going in for Joao Felix. I don't see it as kind of a priority for me this season. But then, you look at a 4-2-3-1, just kind of playing devil's advocate here. You look at a 4-2-3-1 that Pochettino could play. Felix, obviously you could see him as a number 10. That was briefly tried. I think Graham Potter tried it for a little bit when Felix came in, sort of playing in behind the striker. With a better striker, you could finish chances more consistently. Obviously, a different conversation, but I think at the moment he just isn't offering, the end product or just, the impact that I would want. And I think, given how important this summer is, to kind of clear out a lot of the dead wood, to try and refocus, to hit a reset and to look at who's important, who's most valuable within this squad. I think it's just going to be a case where if that's what they're asking, and if you can't have a compromise with a swap deal, there's no justification for paying 88 million for Joao Felix. There's no justification. It's not like this is a guy who earlier in his career, even in recent years, you have to go back to 2019, you have to go back to Benfica, and that is a long way away now. There's been nothing in recent years to suggest he is an extraordinary player that is worth investing in when that money could be spent somewhere else. And I also just think in terms of the squad composition and what we'll need, and my questions over his ability off the ball with a coach like Pochettino, I think there are better uses of those funds. But if if you're sitting there and going that you can get Aubameyang and Marc Cucurella, I don't know if it would be both. I can't really see a situation where both players move on. That'd be quite extraordinary. Given those are two names that I think a lot of people, particularly Aubameyang, quite obviously would like to see the back of this summer. I think Marc Cucurella, that would obviously open the door for Ian Maatsen to come back, which is preferable in my point of view. So we will see how that develops. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. That is it for today's show. We're going to be building up, obviously, and luckily in the UK it's bank holiday, so it's not Monday here, it's Tuesday now, so we're getting close to the weekend. We're actually feeling a little bit of enthusiasm going to Stamford Bridge at the weekend to see Chelsea play, which again feels quite weird, but I'm sure Chelsea will try their best to knock that enthusiasm down quite quickly. But let me know your thoughts, all of that good stuff. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again very soon. All the best.